who is Cam Ward once he gets to the NFL? And before you even start talking, I'm going to say this. I find it interesting that the Tennessee Titans have the first overall pick. And if you look uh, measurables of Cam Ward, he is Steve McNair slash Jake Locker, who were pigskin doppelgangers of each other. Again, in terms of building really skill set in a broad sense. And I think Cam Ward fits that too. So do the Titans take him, first of all? And which guy is he closer to, McNair or Locker?
Well, oh, I mean, I think he'll be closer to McNair. If I say Locker, I mean that's that
Bust,
runs
right?
contrary. I already know what Jake Locker is, so in hindsight, I can say that's a bust. And so, my grade is a 63 on him, which is an above average starter. Typically a second round, caliber pick, which is not unusual for a lot of starters, starting quarterbacks, honestly. Um, I think he has a chance to be somewhere closer to Steve McNair, obviously. He does a lot of good things with his arms. He is, I don't know that he's going to be as good a runner as Steve McNair. McNair was a tough runner more than an
Mm.
explosive runner. He used his size to shake out of sacks, which Cam Ward can do. And then, like I said, he was a really physical runner when he needed to, would move the chains when he needed to. Um,
Don't let me put my perception of who he is
well, I
on
mean,
you. You're the
honestly,
expert, so I defer to you. I
honestly,
just that occurred to me looking at him
yeah,
that
yeah,
boy,
yeah. I
he
mean,
really. Why do I have
I
deja vu?
I see the good and bad of Brett Favre. I mean, the good from an arm talent standpoint. I'm not going to go all the way with it, but from an arm talent standpoint, he's going to make some throws that Favre would make, where you went, holy crap,
Mm.
that's really good. Like there's no other quarterback other than maybe Tyler Shuck could make some of these throws from this draft class who's coming out of Louisville. I mean, 7 years in college, because of three different injuries and COVID and all that. But yeah, but Favre comes to mind because he's got the ability to make certain throws that are really difficult, but then he also will force things and make some bad decisions. And so with Brett, you had the good and the bad, the yin and the yang that you had to deal with, and you have some of that with Cam Ward too.
Yeah. I guess that can't make some sense. So okay, we just mentioned Shedeur. How say you on where he slots? And I think it is fair to be a little bit to be a little bit skeptical of what it's going to be like when his old man is already weighing in and has been for quite some time now. So I don't think it's just like empty jive to say like, oh, I don't know, this could be a handful to deal with. Dion is a virtue in a lot of ways, but I can completely see being an NFL team and being like, wait, is the old man going to be weighing in on playing time and all of that stuff? I don't want to open that can of worms. How say you?
It's funny because in my process, I write up scouting report with strengths and weaknesses. I try to get a player comp with Shedeur. I don't have one right now, but and then I will text different people around the league to try to get a quote from them anonymously because they don't want to put their names on it. Um, so I try to get a quote from them about players, depending on how good the players. I mean, typically the better players for the most part. And the first one I got back on Shedeur, I thought was the most interesting one. So that's what I used. And it was to the effect, well, here, I'll read it up. I'll pull it up. But the reason I'm mentioning all this to you is that my editors decided not to add it. I guess they thought it was a little too spicy. And this will happen sometimes. Maybe they thought they're doing it for my own good because I don't have to take a bunch, but it's not my words. It's the words of somebody who's in the league that is an executive. And here, I'll pull it up for you
Hmm.
because I don't want to get this wrong. I want to get it exactly right. Here's exactly what was told to me that is not in my scouting report right now. He said, I'm okay with the football stuff. This is on Shedeur Sanders. He said, I'm okay with the football stuff more than the leadership. It has to be about we and not me. You can't be on podcasts laying out teammates, coaches, the front office, and then you worry about Dion being disruptive with public comments. There is a lot to consider other than just football, and that's not the case with Ward. And I thought that was a very fair comment because it's kind of in line with what I've always thought, which is I think Dion has done some damage to the perception, frankly, of Shedeur Sanders, where you go in knowing, well, Deion's got to, first of all, he's already said he's got to approve before you're even allowed to draft him. He's got to approve you. So now you got that process that you got to worry about. And then Deion is very, besides being a coach, I mean, he also has his own TV show he's doing. I'm sure Shedeur is going to want to come in and have a podcast right away. I might be wrong, but it's going to happen at some point. And he already took shots at his offensive line, which is what that comment was when he was on a Twitch stream or something. I guess before the season started, he took shots at his offensive line. And that's like, for NFL teams, when you're the quarterback, you're expected to shoulder most of the blame, even things that aren't even really your fault. A lot of quarterbacks are considered, leaders because they will really shield everyone as much as they can. And I think the concern right now is that not only are you not sure if Shedeur is going to do that based on his history there, but also, Deion's made it pretty apparent that he is going to be weighing in. And what happens when there's adversity? Teams have to think about that is, if he's in New York with the New York media, with the Giants, for example, or the Jets, I mean, can those organizations handle Shedeur maybe not playing well or maybe sitting and not being happy to sit while he learns behind another quarterback and Deion's wearing you out, publicly? I don't think Deion's going to be a quiet father. I think he's going to have comments. And so that absolutely is, I think, on the minds of some teams. I don't know about all teams, but I think it definitely plays into it.
It's funny because it cuts both ways. Deion is, and it at least as well as I do. If you talk to pro football players, even right now in the year of the Lord 2025, 24-year-old kids are still swoon at the name Deion Sanders in a way that maybe aside from Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, I don't think 21st century players regard anybody on the level like they do Deion Sanders, really. So I'm seeing a lot of pushback to the pushback on Shedeur. Like, people have now gone too far. I think it's valid though too, and I also think that because I've had conversations with Deion about that quarterback. I love that guy. I can't believe that team isn't better, and he gets into that like, you got to be the CEO of the organization. If you're the quarterback, you can't just be talented. You have to be the CEO and all of that. So he's in his ear, and maybe that's valuable in terms of how you should comport yourself as a professional. But I do see that, you're a control freak as well if you're a GM or a head coach or an offensive coordinator. And so you want to get those thoughts and not have to deal with what the old man is telling your star player. Anyway, interesting there. And then one more. Talked to Daniel Jeremiah about him a few weeks ago, and he seemed impressed with the kid, Jackson Dart. How say you? Who is he as an NFL QB?
I think he's average. He's
Starter?
accurate. What's that?
Starter, like mid-level starter quarterback, or low?
Lower end starter for me. I think he's not very physically impressive. I like the mentality. I like the makeup. I think he really has to effort and labor for some of the throws he has to make, which, is a concern, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want, when you have really greedy defensive backs and you're having to make a throw in tight windows, those guys can jump those throws and come up with some interceptions. It's not quite as easy as isolating players. He threw a lot of little check downs and hitches or go routes, but it's that second level, that intermediate throw that's the tough one. It really tells what kind of NFL quarterback you're going to be a lot of times. How do you throw into zone pockets? How do you layer the throws over linebackers but in front of safeties? And I worry a little bit about that with him, but he's an accurate quarterback. He can throw accurately. He just has to labor a little bit. But I'm not sure there's more than two starters in this draft, to be honest with you.
But Shedeur is one of them.
I think so. I think Shedeur. I actually like Shedeur. I think he's got a lot of confidence. He's fearless in the pocket. He's got a command in the pocket where he has that Sanders swagger, where it's not fake or phony. He really has a lot of bravado, which I think you have to have. Dan Marino had it. We didn't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the swagger and the bravado. I think the thing that concerns, and he's really accurate too. I think the thing that concerns me, Dave, is that I don't want him trying to be a star level passer.
Hmm.
He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have enough arm to make those off platform, off schedule throws on a regular basis and survive that way. What he needs to be is CJ Stroud and Jared Goff. Stay on time, stay in command, get the ball out, be accurate. That's what he needs to be as a game manager. But so many players look at game managers as this bad word. And the reality is Tom Brady was a game manager. That's really at his heart what he was. But when he needed to step up and take control in certain games, you could literally say, we'll put it all on your shoulders. And there are other games they'd lean on the running game and they'd say, just make plays when you need to make plays. So I think if he embraces who he is and what he's built for, which is managing a game, throwing with accuracy, throwing with timing, um, being an intelligent quarterback, I think he's going to be in pretty good shape. If he tries to,
LZ, I have to tell you
yeah.
that we've modified it so that you don't have to go through life with that stink of game manager on
All
you.
right. Well, when did
Tom
it
Brady
change?
was a game manager and he's the best of all time. We changed it. There are
When did we change
gunslingers,
it?
Marino and Favre, and then there are assassins, lethally accurate.
Ah,
Go with that, please.
See, I used to call them playmakers and snap takers, but snap takers was really offensive to quarterbacks. But I mean,
Assassin is better.
I think there's only a certain amount of playmakers, though. I think there's a very small amount of playmakers. Now you can make plays with your head and out duel.
Sure.
I think Peyton Manning did that. He didn't have a great arm. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning are two of the guys who did that. I think Mahomes does that from time to time too. But you have playmakers, but there's just very few playmakers in the NFL. Everyone aspires to it, but the reality is there's only a few quarterbacks who should be getting paid 50 million plus. I mean, in baseball,
That's the reality,
yeah,
right?
in baseball you get paid what you are worth. And there's not next man up in baseball. Well, Trevor Lawrence is next man up. I guess he's got to get the highest contract. Not in baseball. In baseball, you get what you have coming to you. And but in football, it's like, well, he's next man up. I guess you just have
Better
to give
keep
this
them, or else
quarterback
we go into the
yeah,
great
50,
unknown,
60
which is
million.
a legit concern too. Like, do we try to
Yeah.
keep this guy? You saw what the Giants did. I don't know if you heard; they didn't do so well. Saquon left, and he did do well. He did better than the Giants did. Sorry,
Yeah.
Eddie Spaghetti. I don't know why that came up. It flowed through the conversation organically. It is funny too when you talk about guys. My my assertion has been, LZ, that in the last 3 months or so of pro football, the game got in the chess match, it got to be so severe that even the superhero quarterbacks, think about January and February this year, it has all become, we're in a weird little valley here in pro football strategy, which is like, don't screw up. Oh yeah, we know you're Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. It doesn't matter. Just don't screw up. Play like Case Keenum might, and that will serve our purposes better than you trying to make a superhero play. That kind of stinks, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Dan Marino and Brett Favre have no place in today's NFL. Like, yeah, we know you can make throws that maybe 5 or 6 other human beings in the history of people could make. Don't do that though, because it might hurt the team here. But then again, the guys who don't have that arm, I told my boy who's trying to learn, Jean-Claude Van Dameshek is trying to learn to drive a car right now. And I'm teaching him merging. If you can't merge at full speed, then you can't really merge. And if you have to take a full wind up to make the throw and really sell out to get that ball out there, then you can't really make that throw in
Yeah.
practical terms.
Yeah. And there was only a couple guys I saw on the field who could, I mean, really, honestly, it was Tyler Shuck from Louisville. And, well, Cam didn't throw. And Brady Cook from Missouri. It comes out pretty easy for Quinn Ewers as well from Texas. But there's a lot of guys that just really, Will Howard does not have big arm, and
Hmm.
Shedeur's got an average arm, and Riley Leonard's got a very, very average arm, and Jackson Dart has to really push to get it there, but it's accurate. And then Dylan Gabriel has to really push for some of the throws as well. But he's fun to watch, and he's a
He's an interesting guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I am
very
fascinated by
specific
him.
offense. He has to play in a very specific offense. He's fun, Shek. He's fun to watch.
Talk to the 2 college teams he didn't play for and see what they think, so you can get an objective opinion about him, because he played for, I think, 136 college teams.